it?
Yeah, no, it's better you didn't.
He said he's super excited.
Okay,
No, I
good.
said shit.
Oh. And you said it right after I started the camera. Damn.
All right, so we've been talking a lot about video games. Why not keep it going? A couple little facts. So from 1995 to 2008, the video game sales have quadrupled, making it an $11.7 billion market at the moment. In 2008, 97% of 12 to 17-year-olds said they have played a video game. The popularity brings all age groups though, so we're talking about kids here. Do they have an effect on kids? Yes, they have a detrimental effect on kids. One of the main points that people are trying to study right now is aggression. Now, the definition of aggression I'm going to use is an act of violence to harm someone else. So that's what Douglas Gentile used in the Journal of Adolescence. They used a sample size of 607 students, both 8th grade and 9th grade, and they did a cross-multiplication experiment with trait hostility. So they took the kids and then they put them from a 1 to 4 scale. 4, how you doing? Just don't put up anymore, put up 3, okay? Put up 3, not fair. Totally, like I remember. So it's trait hostility. They took the kids, 1 being low in hostility, 4 being high in hostility. They took all the kids and they put them into these different 4 categories. And then they used video game violence as the other cross-multiplication process. Kids that were hostile had a 63% chance of getting into a physical fight, and then the non-hostile students had a 38% when they played by video game. Whereas the kids that were non-hostile, that didn't play non-violent video games, they had a 20% chance of getting in a physical fight. And they also had a positive correlation between content and the amount of play with altercations with their teachers in that same study. The other main problem with violent video games in kids is desensitization. The definition I'm going to use for desensitization is from the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology, an article by Nick Carnegie and a couple people, Craig Anderson. Uses the reduction in emotion-related physiological reactivity to real violence. They used a sample size of 257 students, and they had them take a baseline heart rate before they started playing, let them play for 20 minutes, took their heart rate again, and then had them watch 10-minute videotape of real violence. Now this real violence is pretty rough stuff. We're talking about courtroom objections, they're talking about prison fights, police altercations, shootings. One of them actually, one of the videos was just 5 minutes full of just 2 prisoners stabbing another prisoner. So it's definitely a lot for the kids. And after playing 20 minutes of the video games, the kids had lower heart rates than the kids that didn't. So this kind of proves that they have a desensitization. Then the other main point for me is the school performance. A lot of controversy here. Most of it kind of relates to the content exposure, but mostly the screen time. So I'm going to put both of those together. In the official Journal of American Academy of Pediatrics, Iman Sharif did a study with 4,508 5th to 8th grade students, and they found a positive correlation between poor performance and explicit content exposure and an increase in screen time. But they also found that with the increase in parental restriction, the increase in school performance rose. So school performance does have, video games do have an effect on school performance. So in conclusion, kids shouldn't be able to play video games that aren't in their age group. Parental guidance needs to be there. If there's no parental guidance, these kids are going to do whatever they want. As far as long-term effects, you really can't study that because it's kind of hard to do a long-term experiment. So hopefully we won't have to see any detrimental effects from long-term studies. And that's it.
Right, James, I like the research that you have, but it seems to me like the speech is all centered around the research that you're presenting. There's always an explanation of what the study is, there are details on what the results of the study are, and you kind of are backing into claims instead of making the affirmative claim and then using the study to back those up. Just as an example, at the very beginning, I don't think you have a very clear declaration of what your proposition is. I know what your position generally is, but you need to have an explicit statement of what the proposition is. There isn't really a preview of what the supporting points are going to be. In fact, the very first point just starts off as a reference to the study, and we kind of have to interpret as to what that study is supposed to mean and what conclusion we're supposed to draw. Then as you get to the other points, you don't really have declarative sentences on them. You just have topics that you're labeling there. Desensitization, school performance. What about those kinds of things? It's just a simple thing to make the declarative statement that says excessive video game playing causes desensitization to violence. Excessive video game playing causes decreased school performance. That's what your claims are, and you're not making claims. You're waiting for us to make the claims after you present the evidence on that. And that's not the way. It's not going to be as clear as an oral argument when you do that. So you need to make those claims up front, and they need to be much more clearly stated as declarative sentences. I thought you did a nice job citing the sources of your evidence and giving us, like I said, the details on them, how they reach their conclusions. It seemed a little bit strange at the end of the speech that your summary is really about different issues. Suddenly we're talking about how people should be playing age-appropriate games, the parents should be involved, and we don't know what the long-term effects are. And none of that was what the body of the speech was about. So that you're making now completely different inferences at the end of the speech. And of course you have that Porky Pig exit that we don't want to have. You knew that was coming. All right. So I think you're a little bit anxious while you're presenting. I'm not sure if the anxiety is just the usual public speaking anxiety, or whether it's a need to have maybe a little bit more data to support those points. Sometimes people feel nervous even if they're really well prepared, and sometimes they feel nervous because they're not really well prepared. You're the only one who knows that. All right, so you'll have to figure that out. Thank you.